Hello everyone. Today we are going to do the revision for the chapter number 1, that is chemical reactions and equations. This presentation includes a revision for the whole lesson. Okay, part 1 was already done. Since there was a problem with the clarity of that presentation, it is read in again in this presentation and sent. So the whole lesson is in this presentation, the revision of the entire lesson. Please have a look at it. First, chemical equations and balancing chemical equation. What's a chemical equation? Chemical equation is a symbolic representation of a chemical reaction. So you show the chemical reaction with the help of symbols. That is by taking reactants on the left hand side and the product on the right hand side. So the representation of a chemical reaction by using symbols and formulae of reactants and products is called a chemical equation. Clear? First, let's see balancing chemical equations. I have given an equation here. Al plus HCl gives AlCl3 plus H2. First, I have to count the number of atoms of elements taking part in the chemical reaction both on the left hand side as well as on the right hand side. So, on the left hand side, what are the elements present? It is aluminium, hydrogen and chlorine. So, I have written down here aluminium, hydrogen and chlorine. On the right hand side I have AlCl3, that is aluminium, chlorine, hydrogen. Now when I count the number of atoms, aluminium is 1 on the LHS, hydrogen is 1 and chlorine is also 1. On the RHS, aluminium is 1, hydrogen is 2. When it is written H2, number of atoms of hydrogen there is 2. And AlCl3 tells me that aluminium is 1 and chlorine is 3 here. So when I look the number of atoms of hydrogen and chlorine, they are not equal on both the sides. When they are equal, when all the elements are having equal number of atoms, then only you call the equation to be balanced. Here only aluminium element is showing equal number of atoms on the left hand side as well as on the right hand side, whereas my chlorine and hydrogen are not equal. The number of atoms of chlorine and hydrogen shown in the chemical equation is not equal on the left hand side as well as on the right hand side. So we have to make it equal. What has to be done to make them equal? That's what we will do now. So it was already said that the number of hydrogen atoms and chlorine atoms on both the sides are not equal. So we have to make it equal. For that, I will take the side where the number of chlorine atoms are more. So where did we have that? This AlCl3. Number of chlorine atoms here, it is 3 plus H2. Now to make this equal, what will I do? On this side I have Al plus HCl, right? So if I want to, I said in a chemical, when you are balancing you have to increase, you cannot decrease. So I cannot make this chlorine 4 because we have to use multiplication. So what's the other option? I have to multiply this 3 by 2. When I multiply this by chlorine atoms, that is 3 atoms by 2, my chlorine is becoming 6. I cannot cut this 3 and write 6 here. Instead, I will have to use a 2 here. When I use a 2, my chlorine atom is becoming 6. So this side also I will put a 6 so that my chlorine atoms on both the sides are balanced. When I use a 6 on the LHS, my hydrogen is also increasing by 6. To balance that, I will put a 3 here so that hydrogen becomes 6. Now, number of hydrogen atoms and chlorine atoms have become equal. But my aluminium atom is again unbalanced. So, I will have to put a 2 here so that the equation becomes balanced. So, the balanced form of this equation is 2Al plus 6HCl gives 2AlCl3 plus 3H2. I told you earlier itself, Cl you had 3 atoms, here you had only 1 atom. To increase the number of Cl atoms, I have to multiply the number. So if I multiply by 2, I get 6. So on the LHS also the number of chlorine atoms can be made 6 by putting a 6 there. When I put a 6 there, hydrogen is also increasing by 6. So immediately I have to go to right hand side and make my hydrogen atoms also 6 so that it becomes equal on both sides. To make that hydrogen atom 6, I have to multiply 2 by 3. So where will I put that 3? I will have to put it as a coefficient. Now when I do this, chlorine atoms and hydrogen atoms are becoming equal on both sides. So when I write a 2 here on the coefficient side, my aluminum is also increasing by 2. So what should I do? I have to put that 2 before my aluminum atom, which is seen on the left hand side also. So now the number of atoms of elements and the compounds formed are equal. This shows the equation is balanced. Okay, we'll do one more example. This equation Na2CO3 plus HCl gives NaCl plus H2O plus CO2. First we have to see whether the equation is balanced or unbalanced. What you have to do for that, you have to count the number of atoms of elements that are shown on the left hand side as well as on the right hand side. See here, I have written on the LHS, what are the elements found? You have sodium. In carbonate you have carbon and oxygen, and in hydrochloric acid you have hydrogen and chlorine. On the right hand side, in NaCl you have sodium and chlorine. In H2O you have hydrogen and oxygen. In carbon dioxide you have carbon and oxygen. Let's count the number of atoms. Here sodium on the LHS you have 2 and on the RHS it is 1. So the number of atoms on both the sides are not equal. This itself tells that it is unbalanced. Now carbon on the LHS you have 1 and on the RHS also you have 1. Oxygen on the LHS it is 3 and on the RHS also it is 3. How is it 3? In this water H2O you have 1 oxygen atom and in CO2 you have 2 oxygen atoms. So when you count this 2 plus 1 you get 3. Next, hydrogen on both the sides it's 1 on the LHS and 2 on the RHS. Chlorine it's 1 on the LHS and 1 on the RHS. Now the number of atoms of sodium on the LHS and RHS and your hydrogen on the LHS and RHS are not equal. So we have to make it equal. How can we do that? See here, I'll write the equation for you. Na2CO3 plus HCl gives NaCl plus H2O. See here, sodium is 2. This side it is only 1. To make it 2, what will I do? I'll multiply this 1 by 2. Where will I write this 2? I'll have to write it here. So when I do this, my chlorine is also increasing by 2. What should I do? Immediately this chlorine, which is 1 here, should be multiplied by 2. So that 2 I'll write here. So it becomes 2 HCl. When I write 2 HCl, immediately my hydrogen atoms on both the sides are becoming equal. Oxygen is already balanced. Now hydrogen is also made equal and your sodium is also made equal on both sides. So the balanced form of this chemical equation is Na2CO3 plus 2HCl gives NaCl, that is 2 NaCl plus H2O plus CO2. What did I do in this equation? Na2. So on this side I have multiplied this sodium atom by 2 by writing a 2 here. When I do that, my chlorine is increasing by 2. This side I have to increase the chlorine by 2. So when I write a 2, my hydrogen is also increasing by 2. Immediately when I look on the right hand side, my hydrogen atoms here also it's 2. So they are becoming balanced. The entire equation is balanced now. Clear? And 2 examples for you to try. One is Fe2O3 plus CO gives Fe plus CO2 and another question is Na plus C2H5OH gives C2H5ONa plus H2. So you try it on a paper or you can use a notebook and try to balance this and see. I'll tell you orally again. Fe2O3 plus 3 that is CO, that is your carbon monoxide, gives iron and carbon dioxide. So here carbon monoxide and here it is carbon dioxide. So oxygen atoms are not equal in number and your iron atoms here are also not equal in number. To make it equal, I am multiplying this oxygen atom by 3. So where will I put the 3? I'll put the 3 here. So my carbon is increasing by 3 and oxygen is becoming 6. On this side, oxygen is already 3. So when I put a 3 here, oxygen will become 3 on the CO also, so that the total number of oxygen atoms becomes 6 and carbon is also increasing by 3. Clear? So the equation becomes balanced. The second equation, Na plus C2H5OH gives C2H5ONa plus H2. Now Here your hydrogen atoms are not equal. Here you have only 6, here you have 5 plus 2 7. To make it balance, what am I doing? I am multiplying by 2 this side. So automatically what happens? C2H5 is also increasing. So I'll have to put a 2 there so that my C2H5 also increases, and here sodium is increasing by 2, so that I have to show here. So when you count the number of atoms, it becomes equal and it is a balance equation. Please try these two equations by writing it in your notebook and practice and see, and then you check your answer with what is given you. See, what's a double displacement reaction? A double displacement reaction is a type of chemical reaction where two compounds react and the positive ions and the negative ions switch their places, forming two new compounds or products. Here I have given an example: copper chloride and silver nitrate. This Cl2 and NO3 swap their places to form CuNO3 twice and AgCl. So the positive and negative ions are swapping their places, forming two new compounds or products. So here your copper nitrate and silver chloride are the two new product form. Swapping of places, that is switching of places between your chlorine and nitrate has taken place, right? So when you get two new products or compounds by swapping the places of the positive ions and negative ions of the compounds that are taking part in the chemical reaction is what is called as a double displacement reaction. Remember this form, they swap their places. The positive and negative ions of the compounds present on the reactant side swap their places, forming two new compounds or products, right? This is an example for double displacement reaction. I'll discuss an important question which is quite common in your board exam, which is introduced from last year's board exam, that is assertion and reason type of question. It's a very simple question in that two statements will be given. One will be marked as assertion. I've shown here, see, assertion A and reason R. Okay, so two statements will be given and four options are given, like both A and R are true. That means both assertion and reason are true, and R is the correct explanation for the assertion A. That is R is the correct reason for the statement given. And second one is both A and R are true, but R, that is reason, is not the proper explanation for assertion. Then assertion is true but reason is false, or both this can be false, can be true, like that they can give you any number of options. You have to go through the statements given and you have to find out which option will come here. First, assertions given as rusting of iron is a chemical change. We all know rusting of iron, that is iron when it is exposed to moisture turns into iron oxide, which is called as corrosion. So it's a chemical change. The product formed will be totally having new characteristics when it is compared with the characters of the elements that are taking part in the chemical reaction there. So it is said the chemical properties of hydrated iron oxide are different from iron and oxygen. In rusting of iron, your iron combines with water, that is moisture content in the atmosphere, to form iron oxide, that is your rust, right? So the chemical properties of this hydrated iron oxide, that is your corroded iron which has turned brown, are different from iron and oxygen. Obviously, yes, the properties, the chemical properties will be totally different from its parent element. So according to this, both A and, which option will come, you have to see. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation for the assertion. Yes, rusting of iron is a chemical change, and reason, because the chemical properties of the product formed are totally different from the properties of iron and oxygen. So other options are not going to come. Both A and R are true and R is not the correct explanation for the assertion. No, R is the correct reason for assertion. Clear to you? Understood? Both assertion and reason are statements which are scientifically, it can be right, it can be wrong also. But you have to judge whether for the given assertion the reason is proper, or whether both are wrong or both are right. Whatever is given under A, B, C, D, those options you have to go through and accordingly you have to choose one. As I said, A is true but R is false. No, A is true, R is also not false, because chemical properties of the product form, that is iron oxide, or is totally different from iron and oxygen is a true statement. It is not false. Just you have to see what is the statement given, whether it is scientifically correct, and which one among the following option matches the statements, whether both A and R are true and R is not the correct explanation for A, or both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation for A. A is true but R is false. You have to choose that option. I'll show you one more example. This question, color of copper sulfate does not change when iron nail is kept immersed in it. It's a wrong statement. Color of copper sulfate do undergo a change when iron nail is immersed, right? Because iron displaces copper from copper sulfate and it becomes ferrous sulfate. Solution turns pale green in color. Iron is more reactive than copper and it displaces it. Yes, that is a true statement. Now let's go to the option. Both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation for the assertion. Before going to this part, R is the correct explanation for the assertion A. The first part itself is wrong. Both A and R are true. No, A is a false statement. Second option, both A and R are true. Again, A is not a true statement. A is true but R is false. No, A is a false statement. A is false but R is true. Yes. Copper sulfate does not undergo a color change when iron nail is kept immersed in it is a false statement, and reasoning is right. Iron is more reactive than copper. That is why it displaces copper from copper sulfate. So option D would be the answer for this question. See, what's a double displacement reaction? A double displacement reaction is a type of chemical reaction where two compounds react and the positive ions and the negative ions switch their places, forming two new compounds or products. Here I have given an example, copper chloride and silver nitrate. This Cl2 and NO3 swap their places to form CuNO3 twice and AgCl. So the positive and negative ions are swapping their places, forming two new compounds or products. So here your copper nitrate and silver chloride are the two new product form. Swapping of places, that is switching of places between your chlorine and nitrate has taken place, right? So when you get two new products or compounds by swapping the places of the positive ions and negative ions of the compounds that are taking part in the chemical reaction is what is called as a double displacement reaction. Remember this form, they swap their places. The positive and negative ions of the compounds present on the reactant side swap their places, forming two new compounds or products, right? This is an example for double displacement reaction. Now let's learn about oxidizing agent and reducing agent. If a substance gains hydrogen or loses oxygen during a reaction, it is said to be reduced and is called an oxidizing agent. So what are oxidizing agents? The substance that gains hydrogen or loses oxygen is what is called as your oxidizing agent. And the substance that gains oxygen or loses hydrogen is supposed to be your reducing agent. That means a substance that gains oxygen or loses hydrogen during a reaction is said to be oxidized and is called a reducing agent. Now we will see oxidation and reduction reaction. See, if in a reaction gaining of oxygen and loss of hydrogen happens simultaneously with loss of oxygen and gaining of hydrogen, you call it as oxidation reduction reaction. When oxidation and reduction takes place together, you call it as oxidation reduction reaction or redox reaction. So a reaction in which oxidation and reduction takes place simultaneously is what is called as your redox reaction. So a reaction in which one reactant undergoes oxidation whereas the other gets reduced during the course of reaction are termed as oxidation reduction reaction or redox reaction. I have given an example here. See, copper oxide reacts with hydrogen to form copper and water, that is H2O. In this, loss of oxygen and gaining of oxygen are taking place. Copper oxide is losing oxygen to become copper. So when oxygen is lost, you call it as reduction reaction. When gaining of oxygen takes place, you call it as oxidation reaction. So this hydrogen is becoming water, that is your oxidation part. Copper oxide is losing its oxygen to become copper is your reduction part. When oxidation and reduction happen simultaneously, you call it as a redox reaction. I've given one more example also. This displacement reaction, what we saw, iron with copper sulfate forms iron sulfate and copper. So iron is undergoing this oxidation, no, it is gaining oxygen, FeSO4. CuSO4 is losing its oxygen to become, the sulfate is lost and it becomes copper. So these are the examples for oxidation reduction reaction. Already studied in detail about oxidation reactions happening in your everyday life, like your corrosion, rancidity and all. So first you should know what is corrosion. See, you must have seen these iron particles when it is exposed to moisture or atmospheric oxygen. It it gets a deposit of iron oxide on its surface. That means it becomes reddish brown in color, right? So it's a natural, corrosion is a natural process that converts a refined metal into a more chemically stable form such as oxide, hydroxide or sulfide. Your copper also undergoes corrosion. Your silver also, when it is kept exposed, it undergoes a black color layer is formed above its surface. We saw while having this teaching session why silver articles are kept inside glass doors, or it is kept covered totally. Even copper articles, when it is exposed, you get those green spots over them. Aluminium also loses its luster when it is kept exposed, right? So corrosion is a natural process that converts a refined metal into a more chemically stable form such as oxide, hydroxide or sulfide. It's a gradual destruction of materials by chemical or electrochemical reaction with their environment. Example, rusting of iron, black coating on silver and the green coating on copper are other examples of corrosion. If you learn what is given in your textbook is more than enough. Okay, corrosion, you can give the example for rusting of iron. Iron article, when it is kept exposed to moisture or when water combines with water comes in contact with iron article, a layer of rust is formed over that. That's why how to avoid this corrosion of iron articles, you keep painting them, electroplating is done, galvanization is done, and all you have learnt in your lower classes. So we'll learn in detail about corrosion in the upcoming lessons. Okay, next is rancidity. Please pay attention. When the substance containing oils and fats are exposed to air, they get oxidized and become rancid, due to which their smell, taste and color change. This process is what is known as rancidity. You must have seen these biscuits or any crunchy items that you buy, and if you leave it open, they become soggy. They lose their crispiness because they are undergoing oxidation. And when oil is left over for a longer period of time, it turns rancid. When you heat it, you can see the bubbles coming up, froth getting formed, and it gives a very bad smell. So when the substance containing oils and fats are exposed to air, they become rancid. That means what? They get oxidized. So how can you prevent this rancidity? By adding antioxidants to those substances which can prevent oxidation, or by storing these food substances in airtight containers, or by wrapping them in aluminium foil, can slow down the process of rancidification. Even refrigerating is one method of preventing rancidity. You know, these chips manufacturers flush the packets in which they store chips with nitrogen gas so that the chips retains its crispiness and it doesn't get oxidized. So chips manufacturers usually flush the bags of chips with gas such as nitrogen to prevent the chips from getting oxidized. So again I'm telling you, rancidity is one such process wherein the substance containing oils and fats are exposed to air, they get oxidized and become rancid, due to which their smell, taste and color changes. How can you prevent? That is why biscuits are stored after you open the packet. After you consume few, you have to store the rest in airtight containers. Otherwise, they will lose their crispiness. The freshness will be lost. Even the fried items that are crispy, like your chaklis or chivda, whatever you buy from the market, cannot be left exposed. It will become soft. It will lose the crispiness. So you have to store them in airtight containers. Okay. So you can prevent rancidity by keeping the food substances in airtight containers or by adding antioxidants to them. So chips manufacturers, what do? They flush the packets in which they are going to store the chips, pack the chips with gases like nitrogen, so that it does not get oxidized. Okay, so with this the revision for this lesson is getting over. So please listen to the presentation presented today, and keep reading your textbook. That is more than enough. So all the best, do well, have a good day.